Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 24 career mode. This is episode number 45 today for the Canadian Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Monaco GP, then be sure to go check that one out. Before you see this one, it was a rather eventful and chaotic Monaco GP with 2 red flags in the race, and unfortunately for us, those red flags were our downfall, especially the second one, as we gambled before that on an extra pit stop to go fast, and then the red flag reset things and obviously gave a beautiful amount of track position to people like Alexander Albon. That got a first ever win in Formula 1 for Williams. A crazy podium, a crazy set of results, and it means that Leclerc actually has got into the podium in his own race, leads the championship, having never even won a race so far in the season. I know it's early days, but still, that's quite impressive and, you know, shows his consistency. Very quietly getting on with it, Leclerc and Ferrari for sure. And, you know, the opposite for my own teammate, Russell. We have to scroll down the page on the results screen to even see where he is. So I was really not expecting this from Russell. I was expecting a real tough challenge as a teammate. I wasn't expecting to be carrying this Silver Arrows team, but I am at the moment. And right now, the carry is needed because we're still not quite there on paper. We're still flagging behind Ferrari, Aston, McLaren, Red Bull on paper, but obviously in reality, we've been able to do some good work in the races, and I think we've been able to drag the Mercedes up. There have been some movements in the R&D chart you can see, mostly from one of the newer teams in Formula 1 here in 2026. Toyota making some big upgrades there in the bid to try and get Tsunoda and Ricciardo some more points in the season. And also you can see Audi making upgrades. They had such a strong start to the season, then they plateaued a fair bit, scored a couple of more points here and there, but they'll be looking to do even better. But we're now about to dive into Montreal at the Canadian Grand Prix, one of my favorite circuits. So if there's any place where I can drag this Mercedes car up to the loftiest heights of P1, here is where I'm most confident. Things are tight. You know, the R&D chart is scaled in so much that you, as a driver, can make the difference in these sort of situations at this point in the career save in Season 3. And that's what I'll be hoping to do as we head into qualifying.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here in Canada at the wonderful Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Who's going to come out fastest of all in the next hour? Yes, it's time for qualifying.
Yep, certainly always a track I'm confident at of just getting into a rhythm straight away, but this Mercedes car has been a bit up and down for us. You would have noticed in the season results so far, we've either had a race where we've been right up there, getting the win in the first race of the season, or just second place, or it's been an engine failure at Japan, and what happened last time out on Monaco, what was it, a P8 I think? I can't even remember. I put it behind me. It was a bit of a messy race, obviously, after some time away from the game, and still finding a little bit of a bite back, let's say, from this diva of a Mercedes car. Mercedes cars always seem to be just on the knife edge of balance and actually harmony with the driver, it seems. We're seeing that a lot in real life, and I'm certainly seeing that in the game, as the car didn't feel amazingly comfortable, but we still got the lap time out of it. That's the crucial thing, still extracting the lap time. We're P3. It was a much better second lap. We gained like over a second, so it just shows the first lap was really just a case of, you know, a banker lap, getting comfortable with the circuit again, getting comfortable with the game, basically, because honestly, outside of these, you know, career episodes, I just have no desire to play this game. So the practice is a little bit rusty, so to speak, as we now go for another flyer, a third one. It's a purple first sector, yellow the middle. It's a small improvement in the last sector, and that's going to edge us up the order because we did slip down. Others did put improvements, and to my surprise, we put it on the front row. At one point, I thought, okay, we might be down in like P9, P8s, but that was a marginal improvement that gets us right up the order because it's actually quite close, you know, only 3/10 covering the top 8. So that small improvement made a big difference for us. But look at the biggest shock of the day. This went under the radar. I didn't notice this all qualifying. Verstappen and Hamilton, both Red Bull Fords, have qualified P17 and 18. That is a massive blunder. It's giving me, it's giving Singapore 2023 vibes for Red Bull there for Verstappen and Hamilton. So this is a massive open door for other teams to score big. Ferrari, Aston, ourselves, maybe McLaren looking to bounce back after a race to forget at Monaco. But it's going to be myself and Leclerc sharing the front row. And let's hope we can get the jump on him at the start.
Here in Montreal, Lights Out is quickly approaching on this artificial island originally built for the World Fair in 1967. Now it's used for a World's Fair of a different kind. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position and a Mercedes alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Russell, Norris, Stroll, Bottas, Perez, Albon, Ocon, Sainz, Tsunoda, Joe, Hulkenberg, Oscar Piastri, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Hamilton, Behrman, and Logan Sargent. Now it's almost time for Lights Out, so let's go down to the track. So I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about this afternoon, and who's going to talk about it with us? None other than Naomi Schiff. Hi, Naomi. So we're getting close to the start of the race. What will this driver be experiencing? Big nerves? Big excitement? What?
It certainly is a time leading up to the race where drivers feel quite nervous because that adrenaline is starting to build and it gets into your mind. So you've got to stay focused, try not to distract yourself too much. But I will say that it's once the formation lap starts, at least it was for me, that was a time where the nerves started to calm down and I got really honed in and focused on the start that was coming.
This seems like a big opportunity to get some big points on Red Bull, who have clearly been the quickest car this season. But last episode, they had a bit of a tough one. Hamilton DNF, Verstappen down the order. Now they're both down the order. And at the right time, the championship leader, who has not won a race yet, Leclerc, is very nicely on pole position, so he's timed this well for him to maybe go for the win and to extend that lead he is already in the standings. But of course, I'm here on the front row. We've dragged the car up. Russell qualified P4, I didn't even mention that, so that's a much better qualifying from Russell. So hopefully this can be a decent race for both of us. But myself and Leclerc on the front row, both on mediums. The rest of them, there's a pack behind us, all on hard tyres, so it might just be me versus Leclerc in the initial laps as we go to fire red lights, and we're underway for the Canadian Grand Prix. Leclerc gives us this squeeze and just about gives us enough room to work with, but we dip a tyre onto the grass as we tried our best to out-traction the Ferrari. Didn't quite work out. We have to remain in second place, but that was clever from Leclerc coming across, just forcing us to put a tyre in the grass, and that would have made a difference to the traction in the later gears. As we watch on, obviously, Verstappen and Hamilton, they're in a sandwich and a checkerboard with the high-tech GP car. They must hate these lot by now. You had back in Imola, Verstappen getting held up by both of them and allowing us to chase after him, and in Monaco, they finished ahead of both of them, so they have really been a nuisance to Red Bull, and it's going to be more of a nuisance as Behrman cuts the curb and maybe just showing his lack of experience in his rookie season debut in Formula One. He's crashed with Verstappen. Verstappen with no front wing now for an entire lap. It's a disaster for Max Verstappen. And, well, this is what happened then. He was trying to get in a drag race with Behrman. Behrman locks up here, makes a mistake, and then the second mistake was going straight over the curb and trying to rejoin immediately. With a bit more experience, he may have realised going left past the bollard was the better option for him and for Verstappen, and so I suspect there may be a penalty coming for him, but the penalty of losing a front wing is enough for Verstappen. That's going to ruin his entire day. Meanwhile, back to our POV. On the other end of the spectrum of this race, we are fighting for P1, and we've just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We go toe-to-toe with Leclerc. We bang tyres a bit. We were patient on the first straight, looking to make the move in the first sector of Sector 3. It's still going on as Leclerc is very strong in his defence, but eventually, because we're on the left, we just ended up naturally with a better racing line. We're able to keep that pressure on, and we get ahead of the Ferrari, but he will equally come back at us with pressure, and that pressure is certainly making me crack a little bit as we have the rear end a bit loosey-goosey as the Mercedes, as it did in qualifying, the rear end gets away from me, and oh my days. Wow, the acceleration on that Ferrari was insane. That was ridiculous how fast that Ferrari was. As we now focus in on the battle between Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso, McLaren versus Aston Martin Honda. But we need to remember that we need to break DRS from Leclerc if we have a chance to re-overtake him, as it's side by side into turn one in a puff of smoke as the two make some contact there. The McLaren might just edge ahead, but can Fernando just wring the neck of that Aston? Yes, he can, and get back into P3. Meanwhile, Russell, our teammate, just sitting there, just watching right now, maybe just conserving his tyres for a long first stint on the hard tyres, and meanwhile, myself and Leclerc locked in together a couple of seconds down the road, because obviously we're on the medium tyre, so right now we're on a much quicker tyre, but the tyre wear is coming in. But we are going to be able to re-overtake Leclerc. We're going to come across onto the racing line just to make sure Leclerc doesn't try a repass immediately. Really getting close to the wall of champions there, brushing it, myself and Leclerc, as we see Alonso still under massive pressure from the McLaren with DRS, and Alonso locks up. He goes deep, and the McLaren swoops through for P3. Russell still there, but now ever closer. Then comes Stroll, Bottas in the Audi, leading Perez, who is a bit of a bottleneck, it seems, actually, not the Audi. And then you have to flick down quite a few places to see where Hamilton is, the first Red Bull, and then all the way back here is Verstappen. It's going to be a long day in the office here around Montreal for both Red Bull drivers, as Alonso and Lando are still going at it. Alonso re-overtakes to get back into third place after that mistake. And meanwhile, we have broken DRS for now, crucially, so it gives us a bit of breathing room. But lap 11, Leclerc's straight back on us. He's pushed really hard because he's actually coming in on this lap. So I think he was just taking all the life out of his tyres at that point to be coming in. Our team have said to continue on for one more lap. The schedule stop is going to come up soon. But I feel like we maybe could have covered off Leclerc, because the tyre wear is actually pretty god-awful on the rear end, to the point where Alonso has nearly bridged the gap. In fact, he has. He's within 1 second. So the gap used to be 2.3. The gap is now under a second. And that rear left tyre, you saw the internal carcass temperature was a little bit hot under the collar. So I think we probably could have... it would have been a better bet to cover off Leclerc, because I feel like now Ferrari have undercut us. And oh, brilliant. Okay, that was my fault. I misclicked the button and we turned in late, just showing how much I play the game often. I just keep forgetting what button it is now these days. As we now come down the pit lane, it's a 3.3 second pit stop. And Leclerc's ahead of us. He's way ahead. What are we doing, Mercedes? What are we doing? I'm kind of getting the sense of the frustrations of Lewis Hamilton in real life. That is an appalling strategy call for us not to cover off Leclerc. And Leclerc has jumped us by quite a margin, as we've got cars coming in ahead of us. Hamilton's in, Behrman was in, so we're getting these free positions that eventually they're coming in off their medium tyres. And we are now onto hards, by the way. Leclerc has pit for another set of mediums, but he's being held up now by Sainz. So even though he's about 4 seconds ahead of us, look at this. This is unbelievable. Sainz is doing us a massive favour. The gap is already down to 3 seconds. I'm so surprised Ferrari, being Ferrari, they haven't called in Sainz for a pit stop or just gave him team orders. No, he is fighting Leclerc. He's yet to make a pit stop, and Leclerc is all over the back of him, but he's just holding him up. The gap is now down to 2.5 seconds nearly. The gap is 2.3. The gap is being eroded by this sector. Carlos Sainz doing us a massive favour here. And like I say, I was going to say, Leclerc's on mediums and he's probably going to go to hards at the end of the race. That's the strategy my team was going to put me on, but I decided to go hards first because I want to have the quicker tyre at the end of the race, because I was worried about Leclerc with that undercut. But now, look at the job Sainz has done for us. Agent Sainz has helped us out very much so. He comes in the pits now, but that's taken the piss. We're now 1.5 seconds behind Leclerc. The gap then grows back to 2.3, to be fair to Ferrari, because Leclerc is so much quicker right now on the mediums. But that's the thing. I am on hard, so I am going to be slower. So let's not panic. Let's just wait, be patient, and that medium tyre, that second set of mediums, is going to come onto us at the end of the race, and then we'll be quicker than Leclerc ahead of us as we get past Sergio Perez. Our teammate is Alonso's in. So all those guys that were on hard tyres are soon coming in, but Alonso is not going to see another lap in this race. On lap 20, we see him retiring.
GP2 engines. GP2.
So as Alonso is retiring, his teammate, though, is doing us a favour as he has held up Leclerc to no end there. Leclerc tries to make the dive on the inside, and you could just about see it up the road. Got pinched out, basically. So we've got a lot of drivers here putting up a real plucky fight against Leclerc, and it's really aiding me to just keep him at bay, basically, on the hard tyres. On a slower compound, we've kept up with Leclerc, and we now might even go for a move on Stroll, but maybe even Leclerc himself. As we go down the inside, we bang tyres, and Leclerc cuts the curb and just stays ahead. To be fair, it was a bit of an audacious dive from me. As soon as we start to get to the apex, I was very worried about Leclerc turning in and there being a monumental collision in that chicane. Thankfully not, and we live to fight for another day, and we live to fight for this position now as we just about get it around the outside, but we have to give Leclerc the room, and so we're still going at it. It's a drag race, but I've got DRS, and as soon as that rear wing opens, we see the overspeed, and we're able to drift our way through in... Oh no, Russell! We're into P1, but it's unfortunately the end for Russell. His horrendous season continues. It really has been a one-man team so far at Mercedes, and I didn't expect that coming to this team. I thought we would have a very, very strong Russell to go up against. I thought I was going to have to fight for some authority in this team, but I think very soon we're going to be top dog. I mean, we should be as the reigning champion, as Leclerc dives it down the inside. It's a kamikaze attempt of an overtake, and Leclerc nearly forces us completely off circuit there. The Ferrari is desperate for the lead at this point on lap 22. I have a feeling, though, it's because he's taking the life out of his tyres, because he's coming in soon for a pit stop. He's on the medium, so he's not going to go as long as I will on the hard tyres, and Leclerc is just trying to annoy us as much as he can before he comes in. As we look to make the pass, Leclerc backs out of it, and Leclerc, there you go, comes in. So again, he was taking the life out of his tyres as he comes in now for that second stop. But you know what I've been thinking in this second stint? I actually think it could be a blessing in disguise that we chose to go to hards first, because I actually think we should convert this to a one-stop. I think all those late stoppers from the hards, who start on hards, that is, like Lando, it would have been Alonso and Russell, but they're out of the race now. But I think the only way to win this race is converting this to a one-stop, because Leclerc's all the way down in P16, and then what happens on lap 23 completely convinces me we have to try a one-stop to save this race, because as I go wide, you may notice from the bottom, you might be thinking, why is that overtake button not being disabled, Arav? Well, it's stuck on. We've got a car issue, we've got an ERS issue, and my overtake mode is stuck on. Now, because of patch 1.10, I'm actually using a lot of battery now, because you can use double the amount of battery as a bit of a quirky glitch from the latest patch, but that is decimating my battery. By lap 24, I've got no battery, 0%, and obviously that's when my overtake mode can be turned off. That's when the problem stops itself. Amazing timing. So basically now, yeah, the only hope of getting a good result, I think, is just staying out, 10 laps to go, because we've lost 4 seconds to Lando. He's within 1.5 seconds, and the thing is now, like the mediums, my hards are wearing, I'm losing rear end grip, but there's still something not quite right with the car as well in a straight line. I don't feel very quick, and Lando gets by us with ease, and I try to, well, I thought about, oh, could I re-overtake him, but immediately he's pulling away. That AI incredible acceleration that we've had so far in Season 3 has now seemingly come to McLaren, And Lando, honestly, in this race, looking like he did in real life at Singapore. He's looking to walk away, and I'm just there like, okay, we've got to salvage this. I just need to limp to the end and hope to dear God I can keep some positions. Leclerc is down in P8 right now, so he's got a lot of work to do. And if we had pit and then had this car issue, we would have been in the mud. It would have been ropes. So I'm so glad at least that we were on hards, that we chose to stay out, and then we had the car issue, because at least we can limp home for, I'm hoping, still a podium. But let's see how much Perez takes out of us. But now we're watching Leclerc versus Piastri. Leclerc on much fresher hard tyres. He's one of very few people on a two-stop today, as, oh wow, for the second time in this race, Carlos Sainz does him no favours whatsoever. There must be something going on at Ferrari, inter-team sort of rivalry or some sort of toxic place, because these two are basically not helping each other at all so far this season, and especially in this race. But Leclerc is climbing, but by the time we get to the last lap of the Grand Prix, Lando is a whopping nearly 14 seconds ahead of us. It really honestly feels like the real-life Singapore Grand Prix coming to life here in Canada, as we are struggling to try and keep Perez behind, as obviously now, remember, our hard tyres are really worn, and something is still not very right with my car and the ERS. Ever since the ERS was stuck on overtake mode, it's just not felt correct as we try and skate across the curb to defend Perez. There is Leclerc. He's just about caught up to us, but that's because I've held up Perez and Stroll so much. So we are trying our best now to stay ahead, but we've got Perez, Stroll nipping at the heels. It'll be nearly 3 wide. We stay ahead of Stroll as we go to the line, though. Perez gets an almighty exit, and he is going to do us on the line. Ridiculous acceleration today from the AI, especially McLaren. It almost felt like they had an illegal car there. It was ridiculous. Third place, we'll take it. We'll take it with that big car issue. We have to.
Here's the checkered flag, and our winner has Landoed. It's Lando Norris for victory.
It's not every day that we get to see such incredible wheel-to-wheel racing. Next time, they might consider making it easier for themselves, but today, we absolutely loved all the action that we got to see out there.
So McLaren finally arrive here in Season 3. It's the first time they've looked proper threatening. It was still a good race from us. You know, the issue with ERS aside, we actually had really good pace. I think we could have won that race without the ERS issue. So we'll take some solace with that. And with Red Bull having a disaster, I feel like we still made the most of it, you know, taking into account Russell DNFing as well overall. Guys, if you have enjoyed it, hit the like button, let me know what you thought in the comments below. And if you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.